You sit down, settle in, and in the first 3 breaths I want to hook you. A veteran flight attendant points at a teenager and yells, "Remove that thug from my cabin." A young woman folds a well-worn book in her lap and doesn't flinch, and somewhere in the next 11 minutes, everything someone thought they could control is about to fall apart. This isn't a movie. It happens in the tin can of a jet at the gate, and it's one of those moments that makes you ask who gets to belong up here and who doesn't. Act 1. The moment that starts the storm. Maya Ellis is 19, hoodie faded to nearly the color of comfort jeans torn in the places that mean they were lived in sneakers that keep going as if they have somewhere important to be. She's reading an old civil rights book, the kind they hand you in freshman seminars, when Elaine Porter, 30 years of airline polish, a practiced scowl, points a manicured finger and announces to the first-class cabin that Maya is a problem. The cabin goes quiet, champagne suspended mid-sip, phones put down like weapons. Maya reaches into her pocket and shows her boarding pass. Seat 1A, paid digital confirmation, clear as day. Elaine snatches the phone. "Looks suspicious," she says, like suspicion is a diagnosis. This is where you see the mechanics of how humiliation starts. A tone, a look, a senior badge. Luis, the junior flight attendant who's worked with Elaine for a few years, can tell the tone. The one she used when she questioned a Latino family weeks ago, the one she used with the man in the turban last month. He opens his mouth to correct her, then shuts it. Mortgage, kids. The calculus most of us learn early: keep your job, keep your mouth. Across the aisle, Evelyn Grant, Pearl's designer coat the kind of money that buys silence, whispers that she paid to be comfortable, and she wants to be comfortable without people who make her uneasy. Maya doesn't yell, doesn't beg. She writes. She writes names, times, phrases. Confiscated phone. Discriminatory language. Luis attempted to intervene. Her notes are quiet and exact, the kind of witness work people forget to do until it's too late. Elaine doubles down. The captain, Tom Reed, walks in with a practiced shrug, sees a teenager in ripped jeans in a $12,000 seat, and his voice tilts toward convenience. "We need to be sure she's legit." That's not curiosity. It's a path to permission for mistreatment. Act 2. The turn. Phones, witnesses, and power flipping on its head. Maya does one simple calm thing that flips the script. She calls a number and puts it on speaker. "Dad," she says, and the voice that answers is not a stranger, but Robert Ellis, the founder of Atlas Airways, the man whose office sits 3 blocks from corporate headquarters, the man who'd asked his daughter to fly as nobody special to see how the world treats a face he knows. But that's not the point of the twist. The point is this: a dozen passengers are filming one man, posts a short clip, a lawyer quietly records audio, a kid starts a live stream. Social proof becomes evidence, and evidence becomes leverage. Within minutes, hashtags start to appear, and the internet, that noisy, merciless witness, begins to judge. Atlas's crisis center screens, lit like an altar to speed, sees the feeds. Robert has been listening in via a secure line. He hears Elaine call Maya names, hears Captain Reed invent regulation, hears Evelyn mock her. He knows he could step in soft, but he doesn't. He picks his words precisely. He asks to speak to the captain. The voice through the speaker is calm, and it makes the cabin go still. Silent, not because the engines are quiet, but because a different kind of authority just spoke. "Put Captain Reed on the line now," Robert says. He tells them what his team has been hearing. The threats, the confiscation of property, the invented laws. He says 3 sentences that feel like a gavel. Elaine Porter is terminated effective immediately. Captain Reed is grounded pending investigation, and Atlas will not tolerate discrimination. The power dynamics flip the way a light switch flips. People who thought they could push others around find themselves the ones being pushed out. Luis, who almost lost his nerve, gets called forward and given responsibility. The company chooses moral courage over quiet complicity. But it isn't theatrical. No thunderbolt, no music swell. It's just a phone call and a stream of tiny decisions captured on camera. The passengers who recorded, Aaron, Nina Tyler, suddenly find their minutes of outrage turned into a wave. The live stream grows, the tweet goes viral, the newsroom flags it as breaking. This is modern accountability. Messy, loud, and immediate. Act 3. Aftermath and the hard things. That stay. The plane takes off 40 minutes late. The headlines land like shrapnel stock, dips, statements issued, investigations opened. Atlas changes policy overnight. Zero tolerance mandatory de-bias training, real-time reporting channels. But the change that matters isn't in a memo. It's in how people feel getting on a plane the next week. Luis runs training sessions and tells stories about courage at the galley door, and people listen because he's been where they are. Maya is quietly offered a role to help design passenger dignity programs. Not to punish, but to build. The personal fallout is uneven. Elaine's life collapses in public. Pension gone, job gone, her name spread across timelines and comment sections. She sits down in a grocery store years later, and it's Maya in line ahead of her. An unplanned, ordinary encounter that hurts in the way only real life does. Maya doesn't gloat. She buys her groceries, pays with a card Elaine used to dream of, and offers something that isn't mercy exactly, but it's not cruelty either. "You chose this," she says. "You gave your dignity away for a moment of power." Elaine has to live inside that sentence. Captain Reed loses his command and gets to face his daughters at the kitchen table and explain how he didn't have the courage to step in. He tries to rebuild in smaller ways, talking to youth groups about what real leadership means. Evelyn Grant loses privileges. Her VIP account canceled, her invitations rescinded, and the social world that fed on exclusivity recedes. Some of those losses are deserved, some are messy, but all of them reveal that consequence travels faster now than silence. What's important is not the punishment or the promotion. It's the lesson that's hard to put in a single headline. People learned that when someone is being dehumanized, looking away is a choice that helps the abuse continue. They learned that recording is not voyeurism. Sometimes recording is the only tool people have to make injustice visible. They learned that systems entrench bias, uniforms seniority, economic leverage, and until you change systems, people will keep getting hurt. Finale. Not a clean ending, but something that pushes you to decide, months later. Maya boards the same route. A kid in sneakers walks down the aisle and a trainee flight attendant greets him like any customer. No questions, no assumptions. The moment is small and ordinary, but it matters. It is the quiet proof that culture shifts slowly in habits, not in headlines. Maya writes her notes into a file that becomes a program. Dignity in the cabin. And she uses it to teach crew around the country how to notice, how to intervene, how to make silence impossible. But I don't want to leave you with the cozy feeling that justice always arrives when it should. There are still hundreds of stories without CEO dads, without corporate microphones, without viral witnesses. For every Maya who can press call, there are dozens who can't. That reality is the thorn in the victory. It asks something of us that is harder than pressing a button online. Will we risk discomfort to speak up? Will we stand when it's not trending? So here's where I hand it to you, because this story isn't a lecture, it's a mirror. Have you ever looked away when someone needed you? Have you ever recorded instead of intervened? Or have you stepped in and felt the cost? Drop it in the comments. Tell us the time you saw wrong and chose right, or the time you didn't and still carry it. Argue with me. Is viral accountability a tool for justice or a weapon for spectacle? Is public shaming the only way to make institutions change, or does that risk collateral damage? If this stuck with you, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it, not to inflame, but to start the kind of conversations that change how we treat each other when nobody famous is watching. Your voice matters. Use it. Tell us your story, and let's try together not to let dignity be a luxury for the privileged few.